What up, boys?
How's it going, guys?
What up, boys? I messed up big time, so my phone lost all the storage from this video. We had a lot of cool clips, though, so we had to run it. All the boys are back for Thanksgiving.
We're lonely, and this is sad that we have to only be together on Zoom. But, you know, it's better than nothing, today's day and age. So, Frankie, can you focus for 2 seconds? So we're just going to show you guys some hands. We'll run it up in good old Hideaway session.
Got some nice Omaha hands, got some bluffs for you, so we got it all.
Most importantly, boys, make sure to check out the merch. We got some new maroon up in that business. Let's go.
NextGenPokershop.com.
If anyone wants to run online poker with us while we're really lonely, let us know, because this is tough. This is tough.
And how do you let us know, Rosie?
You let us know by following us on Instagram and sliding into our DMs at TheNextGenPoker. Enough of this Zoom stuff. You've seen it enough in your college classes. It gets boring. Let's get into the hands.
Check it out.
I never went to one class.
All right, guys, first hand for me, we look down at deuces, pocket twos on the button. There is an under the gun straddle and 3 limps. So I'm actually going to, based on the pre-flop action, limp behind and treat this as a set mine with our pocket twos. The big blind limps as well. We are off to a flop a lot of ways. That flop comes jack, 6, deuce, rainbow, bingo. We hit our set. And it checks to under the gun +2, who we are going to refer to as a nut, guys. This guy played every single hand. He played almost 100% of hands. He leads out for 21. Middle position calls, folds to me. We are going to raise this up, guys. I elect to size for $75. It folds back to the nut, who makes the call. Middle position goes into the tank and lets it go. So now we're heads up with the crazy guy. Go into the turn, which is the 5 of spades, so it brings on a backdoor spade draw, and 3-4 gets there, which doesn't really make sense for him to lead out on. He checks, and now we're in an interesting spot because the pot size is 196, and we have 196 in our stack. I think this player is capable of giving up his jack X hands if I do a pot size jam on this turn. So even though there is some more draws coming in, I think based on him leading the flop, I'm going to put him on jack X, and I'm going to not bet pot and jam all in here to try to keep those hands in. So I elect to leave myself with somewhat of an awkward size on the river by just betting 125 into this pot on the turn. I like to play given the player type, given the board texture, trying to keep his whole range in, and he makes the call. So we're going to a river. The river is the 9 of spades, so the backdoor spades get there. 7-8 gets there as well. When he checks to me, basically acknowledging weakness based on his straight up, straightforward player type, we're going to rip in the rest of our $71. He is thinking about it for a little bit, ends up making the call. We flip it over. We are good, boys and girls. Let's take it down. This is an enormous pot, one of the biggest of my career. You know, deuces never loses, that's what they say. I'm hyped. Let's keep running it up.
Oh, oh my god. You know what they say, deuces never loses. Maybe my first or second hand I saw flop with. This whole night I've been sitting, editing for the past hour and a half. Frankie's been getting into pots. I've just been folding, haven't gotten anything. Keeps getting into it with the guy who's very active on the opposite end of the table. Chasing everything, calling everything, all-ins with everything, and I just knew I needed to hit one hand, flop a set. Don't know what he had, but we got it all in by the river, and we were good. Let's keep running it up, boys.
Here, guys, we look down at a pretty hand that you will not be able to see. Take my word for it. Pocket kings in the hijack. Let's go. Second best hand in poker. So I raised it up to $15 with a straddle on, and everyone folds except the straddler. So going heads up to a flop, which comes ace, 6, 9. Of course, kings are the ultimate ace magnet. He checks to me, and I don't see a reason to bet. I just make a check here for pot control reasons, and I'm not going to get 3 streets of value from something worse than an ace, right? So that's why I make the check on the flop. We go to a turn, which is the 8. So now the board's getting more straighty, but at the same time, when he checks over to me, I'm almost never putting him on an ace here. Well, number 1, he's in a straddle, so his range is going to be a lot wider than normal. Number 2, I think the type of player him being, he's either going to lead flop if he hits top pair, or he's definitely going to lead the turn with top pair after I check flop. So I'm really not putting him on an ace here, and I decided to get some value, and I bet $20 on the turn. and he does end up making the call. So off to river card, which is a queen of clubs. Not sure how that really changes anything. And he checks to me once again, and I think a lot of people might just check back here, as you know what, we got second pair and we're totally fine with just winning this small pot. Because as played, this guy does not have a speed. He's checked all 3 ways. I don't think he's putting some ultimate trap on. I look weak after I check the flop. So guys, I decided to go for some thin value here, and I still bet the river. I think this is important in small stakes cash games to get some thin value when you have your premiums. And now I want you to look at something else I do. A little tell that I've noticed is when people try to grab extra chips, it looks bluffier. So whenever someone grabs chips and then just decides they want to grab some more, it's to scare the other opponent into folding. Threw out $25, and now the man gives me the cold stare down, and he ends up counting his chips out and tossing them in the middle. We flip over pocket kings, and we are good. Told you boys I had a Cowboys. He flips over a queen. Not sure what he was calling the flop with. Really no clue. Maybe queen 10. That makes sense. And yeah, get some thin value there. Don't be scared to bet when there's an ace on the board.
Very thin value bet.
Well, Rosie approves as well, boys.
As under the gun +1, we look down at one of my favorite hands in poker, 8-9 suited. Love that hand. Under the gun limps, and I decide to limp as well. Might be a little fishy, but that's okay. Hijack bets $10, and the button makes a call. It folds around all the way back to under the gun, who makes a call, and I decide to come along as well for $8 more. We go to flop 4 ways, and the flop comes pretty nice. 10 Jack 5, all rainbow. Picking up the open-ended straight draw, checks to me and I decide to check. Luckily it checks through, so we get a free turn card. Turn comes a 6 of hearts, brings in a lot more draws, and so it's a pretty draw heavy board. When under the gun +1 bets $27 here, I'm getting a decent price here, not great, but I decide I can probably still make the call here profitably, and if we drill it, let's try to get some value from him. So I make the call for $27 more. Hijack folds, and the button makes the call as well. So we go to a river card 3 ways, which comes the 3 of spades. Pretty dud card, and under the gun checks fairly quick here. After he checks, he sits back in his seat and starts looking on his phone. Kind of seems to me like he's given up on the hand, so I decide this is a pretty good spot to bluff here. I size to $55. I think that this sizing looks very value heavy and kind of looks like a jack. I'm not really expecting the button to have much other than a weak pair, so when I make that bet, the button folds very quickly, so that's a good sign for me. All we have to do now is get through the under the gun player. So he tanks for a while, thinks about it, and ultimately lays his cards down. My read was right. I saw him sit back and he seemed uninterested, so I decided to take advantage of that. Got a little bluff through here. 9 high, always good.
This hand, we look down at pocket jacks, jiggities. On the big blind, there is a straddle. Under the gun +1 raises to 12. Our nut friend calls. Frankie calls in the small blind. It's on to us. We're going to raise this up. I elect to 3-bet to $50, and only the nut calls. So basically the dream scenario here, isolating this guy. Jiggities never make it easy. The flop comes ace, king, 8, rainbow. Not what you want to see. I slow down and check, but the nut checks back as well. When the turn is another ace, I actually think we can start value betting here in hindsight. Given the player type specifically, but I elect to check and just play it normally how I would, just trying to get to showdown here with our pair, and he checks it back, so I think I do miss a bet there on the turn. When the river is a dud, an offsuit deuce, I now try to value bet because I really do think I have the best hand here. I bet $45 and he makes the fold. So lesson here is take the player type into consideration, bet on that turn for value, and maybe we can get some more money in the pot there. But we take this one down nonetheless.
For this hand, we have ace 9 of clubs. We are on the button. Under the gun raises to $10. The cutoff calls. I make the call here, and the big blind calls as well. So we're going 4 ways to flop, which comes 6, 8, 9, 2 hearts, and a club. So I flop pretty well. Top pair, top kicker. It's a very dynamic board. So I lead out here for $16. And then I get immediately re-raised from the big blind, who bumps up to $45. Now, when everyone else folds to me and it's back to me, this he's a fidgety player to say the least. He makes kind of random bizarre moves, and he'd been falling asleep at the table. Like, very, very weird player. So I actually think that this might be one of his just weird random raises that he's just trying to get me out of the pot. So guys, this is not a traditional move, and maybe because I was a little tilted from just the overall day, I decide to rejam all in to protect my top pair, as I just don't believe him. So I don't want to say it's a value bet, but it's kind of a blocker bet, as I don't want to see bad turn and river cards where I'll have to fold my hand later. So I decided to get it all in here while I still think I have the goods. And here's what happens. You see me trying desperately to get my phone to start working because this whole session my phone was out of storage. I don't know what he's thinking at the moment. I'm just typing on my phone. What I'm actually doing is trying to get my video to start recording, but it's probably a weird look for him. So I think maybe he can call lighter. Now he asked me if I went all in. He's like, oh yeah, I'll call, my bad. Guys, we might be behind after he calls. Let's go to a run out. Thank you to Jello for recording it. The 8 of clubs, okay, that's not a great card. If he had middle pair, now he's got trips. At least we got that backdoor clubs. Pink, queen of clubs, baby. I announce a flush, and he does not seem too happy. About 30 minutes after this hand, the man told me he did have the straight on the flop. Channeling a little rampage poker luck there as we come back for runner flush. Maybe I deserve that one, maybe I don't. Either way, we take home a fat pot to save our night.
I know you guys tell me to stay away from Omaha, but unfortunately I cannot help myself sometimes, so we're looking down at a pretty solid Omaha hand. We got pocket jacks, double suited here with 8-9 too, so a lot of straight potentials. There's 4 limpers to me, and I'm on the button here. I'm pretty much never going to raise this. I just limp and the small blind, big blind call. Go to a flop 7 ways, and the flop is pretty nice for us. 10-9 queen, rainbow. We pick up a straight draw. Small blind and big blind check, and the under the gun player pots it for $35. This is a pretty big bet, and I have a really good hand. I also double block the straight, which is nice. However, with 4 cards in each player's hand, 7 ways, it's very likely that someone could have jack king here and have me crushed. So after he pots it, under the gun +1 thinks about it for a while before tossing in the call, and we see a call from middle position as well, and I decide on the button just to make the call as well. We go to a turn that is the king of diamonds. So great card, no flush draws anymore. Under the gun +1 checks. Under the gun +1 checks as well. Middle position checks. And it's on me. I decide here, I've probably got the best hand. I decide here to go for a little thin value, try to bloat up the pot a little bit, and I bet $50. Again, I'm not an Omaha pro, probably should be betting bigger here, but yeah. Under the gun, snap calls, and under the gun +1 folds, and middle position makes the call as well. Here, it checks to me on the river when we see a river of the 5 of diamonds, and I decide I can probably go for value a lot of times, especially double blocking the straight like I said before. However, I decide just to check it down. I know it's kind of a weak play, the pot was already pretty big, and I didn't want to face a jam if I were to raise and get check raised. I'd seen players do that in the past in Omaha, especially at this table, and I did not want to get screwed out of that and have to make a tough call. So I just decided to check it down. Still collected a huge pot here. Wow, Omaha's fun when you hit good hands. What's going on, guys? Just had some pretty nice PLO hands. Let's go. Just won a solid pot. We're up about 250. Looking good. Looking good. We'll see you guys back in there and see what's going on. Let's keep it running.
This hand, we look down at pocket queens in the cutoff. There is an under the gun straddle and 2 limps. I am obviously going to raise this up. I make it $20, and the straddler and our friend from the 2's hand calls. So we are going 3 ways to a flop, which comes king 7-8 with 2 spades. When it checks to me, I don't like this king, obviously. I am going to slow down, and this will be one of the few times where I do not see bet on this board, being multi-way as well. The turn is the 3 of hearts. It is a dud for all intents and purposes, but under the gun is going to lead out for $23, and the nut is going to call as well. Now, normally I would feel that it's very likely that one of them has a king here, but given the nut being just a nut and could have anything, I am going to stick around and make this call here and evaluate a river. When the river's the 5 of clubs, which is a dud, under the gun checks, the nut checks, and I am going to happily take this down to showdown.
Yep, pocket queens.
Queen, you win.
And we are good, boys and girls. So I like us calling on the turn given the specific player types we were up against. Obviously, when you're multi-way, being led into on the turn with an overcard, probably it's pretty likely that one of them could have that overcard, right? But I love it. We made the call. We got a free showdown too, and we take it down.
All right, boys, you saw me had a really, really tough start to the session, switched to Jello's table, made a questionable jam, but you know what? Things work out sometimes.
Luckbox.
And we hit that runner flush. Ended up profiting $220. Let's go. All this. Let's go. All that. It's $220.
I ended the night about 150 up. Got some Omaha hands, some bluffs, a few fun hands for you guys, but pretty casual session, a fun one, and a nice little profit.
And I am happy to announce that this means the boys went 3 for 3 as I logged a big win today. We got it all in with that set of deuces. Deuces never loses against the crazy maniac. We got into 2 more pots with him, won them both. We win $424 on the session. Next gen 3 for 3, baby. We got some fun stuff coming up for you guys. We are all going to be back in Dallas this weekend pumping out content. So there might be one more video of us in Zoom fashion, but then you guys are going to get some really cool stuff coming your way.
Make sure to like and subscribe, boys. It means the world. Comment what's going on. Tell us how your last session went. We appreciate everything. See you in the next one, boys.
Peace.